Hello, hello! Hi! Welcome to this second live episode of Dash Detailed. So happy that you are joining me today. And as you have just noticed, at least I hope you've just noticed, if everything went according to plan, we totally got OBS going, which stands for Open Broadcasting Software, I believe. So huge thank you to the at least 4 people who chimed in our comment section last week. When we had asked for help, we said, hey, we would love to show you graphics and visuals during a live show. Kindly tell us if you know how to do that. And at least 4 people recommended the software that we're using today. So big thanks to you all. If there were a YouTube Dash tip bot, I would totally have tipped you. Since there is not, again, here's a call for another thing that I would love to have in this world, a YouTube Dash tip bot. Just so you know. All right, so without any further ado, let us begin with development updates. Now, in case you haven't heard, allow me to be the first one to tell you that 12.1.4 is in the works to be released shortly. And now, what is 12.1.4? Well, the vast majority of masternodes are currently running 12.1.3, which is, of course, the most recent version. But there are a few things that Dash core developer Ujin M6 says needed to be fixed with that. Among them, 12.1.4 will fix the coin selection process for private send. Some people weren't able to mix 100% of their coins when they wanted to. It will improve the wallet sync process. That is, the progress bar at the bottom of your wallet as it syncs with both the masternode list and the governance objects. It should fix an IPv6 RPC issue, whatever that means. And it should fix an issue that was causing some masternodes to look like they weren't running when they actually were. If you want to know what I mean, if you were anything like me, it was something like 48 hours ago. I went and checked the masternode count, and all in a moment, it had gone from, what it was, something like more than 4,000 to something like in the 2,000s. And I was like, what's going on? What's happening to the masternodes? And of course, other people were asking the same question. I came into the Slack, got my answer, and yeah, it turns out that there is some small issue in 12.1.3 that caused, and you'll see this when we look at the masternode chart later in the show, that caused, for a number of merely hours, made a good number of masternodes look like they weren't online when they actually were. So 12.1.4 is also anticipated as a fix for that. And then finally, with regard to 12.1.4, wallets and of course masternodes, any node really, running on anything that came before 12.1.2 will no longer be able to connect to it. So if you are one of the very few who are still running 12.1.1 or even just 12.1, you will want to upgrade to 12.1, update. Someone pointed out to me the other day, they were like, Amanda, just so you know, updates are software, upgrades are hardware. So you will want to update to 12.1.4 when it comes out as well. And there will be several places where this is posted about. Certainly dash.org/forum in the official announcement section, which is, I believe, the very top section on that webpage. Of course, the DashPay Twitter. Of course, the DashPay subreddit, and may even be stickied to the top. Any of these places will contain the announcement of the release once that happens. Okay. So, moving on in other development updates, so many of you will be so happy about this. Electrum Dash for both Windows and Mac has just been released. The Linux build is still underway, but Windows and Mac are ready. And one reason that a lot of people have been super keen for Electrum Dash to be fixed or whatever is that it's compatible with hardware wallets. And so people wanting to store their Dash in a hardware wallet were keen to do so with Electrum, especially if they wanted to host a masternode from their hardware wallet, for example. So that is out now. And I believe I have an image for you. Allow me to see if I can do this, showing you of images in OBS. All right, go. Yaha! So yes, there you see Windows and Mac Electrum Dash are released, and Linux is awaiting release. Okay, so now you Linux users who may have been wanting to run a masternode from a hardware wallet, do not fret, because Dash developer Bertrand256 has just released the first, I guess it's a Trezor masternode compatible GUI. So this is what it looks like. And so, yeah, rather, it's not, you don't have to do command line stuff with this anymore. And so if you do have a Trezor, I'm not sure if it's compatible with KeepKey, but at least if you do have a Trezor and you want to host your masternode from that, Bertrand256 has released this GUI for you. Righteous. Okay, so moving on to business and headlines. My goodness, Charlie Shrem has hit Dash, hasn't he? Yes, initially, of course, there was this Charlie Shrem tweet, which was fun. And yeah, Charlie here just talks about how he is, of course, holding Dash now, but as you may have also seen at current voting levels, Charlie Shrem has put in a proposal to basically offer a Dash debit card. And I know that there are more details to what that entails. And so that garnered an interview on Cointelegraph, which you will see here. That was fun. And so that, yeah, as it's mentioned in the article there, no treasury payouts are ever for sure until like right at the moment of payout, right? Because it is possible that, if one's proposal has met the minimum 10% more yes votes than no votes at any given time, it is possible that, a deluge of no votes could come in there at the end, or that this seems highly unlikely, but that, some of the yeses could change their minds, etc., etc. And so, again, not the Dash detailed proposal is not for sure. No proposal is for sure until the day of payout. But yeah, generally it looks like it will be funded. And so, yeah. And thanks for watching today, by the way. I hope that I will get a better rhythm for you in the future to make this seem like it just comes as naturally to me as anything at all. Also, in business and headlines, guess what? There are two businesses newly accepting Dash. One of them you may have heard of. It's CryptoSteel. They are the people who make these little, they guard your private keys, basically. So it's a little device here where you can put in the characters that make up, if, say, for example, your Trezor seed, or just any, I don't know if it's BIP 39, BIP 44, I get the BIPs mixed up, but any seed that represents, like, hey, all of your funds. It's a device that stores that sort of thing that's like, waterproof, fireproof, rustproof, etc., etc. At first I was wondering where people would store those. And then I looked at their website, and there's a little image of someone burying a CryptoSteel thing, like under the dirt. So then I thought, oh, that's where one might store those. And then in addition to CryptoSteel taking Dash, staying with the theme of steel, there is a company called Steel Climber that makes, I don't even want to describe it to you. Let me just show it to you. So it's this machine that mimics rock climbing, basically, and I think it looks super groovy, especially for, a house dweller like me who probably would do well to do something that mimics rock climbing. They're taking Dash also. Excellent. And oh, may I also say that yes, the rumor is true. If your business accepts Dash, and I've not announced that here on the show before, send an email to amanda@dash.org so that I may do so, because I would be delighted to. And then in other headlines outside of business, but rather just Headlines, headlines. I did have a nice interview with Evander Smart, writer at Bitcoinist, and the article was published, and I did not come up with the title. I would not have chosen something so provocative. As you know, I'm provocative enough as it is without even meaning to be. But that was a fun interview, and one of the questions that Evander asked me that I don't generally get asked a lot. Well, several of them actually, but he asked, if there was one thing in Dash that needed to be fixed, what would you say that is? And so, I encourage you to read the article. I'll leave that little, what's it called, a cliffhanger? I'll leave that little cliffhanger here for you now. And then finally, in business and headlines, I learned mere hours ago, I would say 12 hours ago, that Wall of Coins, that is wallofcoins.com, the site which is newly selling Dash, that they are now supporting both China and Malaysia for Dash sales and buying, as well as they are supporting what's called co-op credit unions. And apparently that's some, I don't know if it's a certain network of credit unions, whatever it means, in addition to, many, if not all, traditional banks, and now supports co-op credit unions. And now you may not know precisely what I'm talking about, is where an account holder at that bank is selling Dash. And so all of these various account holders, they might be selling Dash at different prices. Maybe some will be selling, 1% above spot, or 5% above spot, or even below spot. So that basically you would choose the Dash price that you want to buy, and then it would say, okay, this Dash seller has an account at Wells Fargo, so you said you wanted to buy $300 worth of Dash from him. Go deposit $300 in cash at this Wells Fargo branch. Here's his account number. So you just fill out a deposit slip. You don't even need to know the guy's name. You fill out the account number and then give the teller the $300 cash, and then she gives you a receipt. You take a picture of the receipt, you put that receipt, you upload it to Wall of Coins, where the Dash has been held in escrow throughout this process, and then the Dash is released to you. So that's basically how the process works. Now, the owner of Wall of Coins, Robert Janito, has mentioned to me that they support other methods of buying and selling as well. I believe he mentioned to me cash in the mail, as well as Western Union. I've not tried any of those, but that is the general gist of things there in that neighborhood. All right, so moving on to price movement. This morning's Dash to US dollar price is $102.06. From last week, that is what I would call the old hold steady. Pete knows. Whenever Pete says, "Oh, you want to know the Dash price today?" or if I look up the hash rate or whatever, and if it's more or less the same what it was the day before, the week before, I call it the old hold steady. And so that gives us a 24-hour trade volume. Not that that gives us. One does not stem from the other. Period. Moving on. Our 24-hour trade volume is $56 million worth of Dash. Our supply of Dash available in existence is just under 7.2 million coins. And then our market capitalization of all of the Dash combined is about $733 million worth. So let's go ahead and check out our market cap over the last 3 months. Yup. And then the last 12 months. And then the lifetime. I remember when that little blip in the beginning, you see it there, it's somewhere like, I don't know, March or April of 2014. I remember when that looked so huge. Relatively speaking, that was like a, whoa, hope we get there again someday. It doesn't look so large anymore. All right, and so you may be wondering, what does this make our available treasury per month? In what dollar value worth of Dash can be created to pay out to various projects to fund various great things in Dash? And that is roughly $692,000 worth of Dash. Very good. Now, in price news, there was a sort of milestone reached this past week, actually, which was that for the first time, let me see if I can say this correctly, the Dash to Bitcoin ratio in price hit 10 to 1 for, I believe, the first time ever. So that was interesting. 10 Dash would get you 1 Bitcoin or vice versa. And I saw an interesting tweet as well. I'd like to share this with you. So this guy says that in February of this year, about 90% of Dash's sales were for Bitcoin. But he says that in the last month, maybe just month and a half alone, that has changed, and that now US dollars represent 20% of Dash sales, and that Chinese yuan is representing like a small but growing portion of Dash sales. So that means that already Dash sales in Bitcoin are now less than 80%. So yeah, it's just, I would be interested to know, where these sales are being made. Like basically, where are these reports being garnered? Is this, because I wonder these things, even just when price is reported, is it just like the top 10 exchanges whose data is pulled and that's how price is determined, that's how volume is determined? Would volume at Wall of Coins, for example, be counted? Certainly OTC, over-the-counter sales, like if you met me at a coffee shop and we traded Dash for dollars in the moment, like that dollar sale would not be accounted for either. So I'm interested to know where these numbers come from. If any of you happen to know, I would be interested to see a link to your source in the comment section of today's video. Now, there was one more article on price this past week. I'll show it to you here. It's from a site I had not heard of them before. They're called Gold Stock Bull. And it was actually the founder of the site who wrote this article. And as you can probably guess from the title of the site, they're precious metal guys, right? But they have been writing about Bitcoin, for example, for several years, and they've just now published about Dash. And both the owner of the site and the writer of this article, same person, he claims to be into both, like the precious metals stuff as well as the cryptocurrency stuff. And I think that's an interesting sort of person, and I appreciate that sort of person. And it reminds me, for example, I had an interview with Chris Dunn about a week and a half ago, and he said, when I talk to people about cryptocurrency, a common sort of rebuke that I get perhaps is, at least with something like gold, I know that no one's going to create any more. Alchemy isn't a real thing yet that I know of. Let me know if you have any sources that contradict that. And I said, you are so right. That is so true. Because something that does not get talked about a lot in the crypto fan person circles is that coin caps can be changed. It is entirely dependent upon the integrity of the humans running a given network to not change the coin cap. And so, yeah, as I had said to Chris Dunn at the time, as far as can any more gold be created if alchemy does not exist? No. Whereas can any more cryptocurrency, can their caps be lifted if the majority of humans running that network choose to do so? Yes. However, can you buy anything on the internet with a piece of gold? No. And so, yeah, so I like that this Gold Stock Bull guy sees the value in both, basically, and I would be interested to see if Dash gets any more coverage there. I think that partnerships with precious metals people who see the value in a sort of digital gold that can buy you a pair of flip-flops online, I think those would be potentially great partnerships to have. Now, I would like to move on to network statistics. So, at current time of recording, our masternode count is such, you will see that it is 4,116. And now look on the far right-hand side of your screen. You see that orange way down, dip down low, like below 3,000? That is what I was talking about in the intro to the show, where just for some stretch of hours, some issue in 12.1.3, or I don't even, maybe it's all the 12.1s, I don't know, but for some stretch of hours, some number of master nodes just showed as not there, even though they were there. So again, it will be important to update to 12.1.4 when it comes out, but if you wondered what that hideous, scary dip was about, that's what it was about. And in hashing, we see that our current hash rate is 2.74 terahashes per second. That's down a bit from last week. Let's go ahead and look at our 3-month chart of hash rate. And then I'll check out our 12-month chart. And then we will check out the lifetime chart. By the way, if you hear a very sort of zen music in the background, let me just tell you what that is. I believe someone is getting a massage next door. Pete and I are renting out this office space in order to bring you a live show because the internet at our dwelling is insufficient. So we've rented out this office space because they have, zippity boom bam internet. And just this morning, right before we went live, I hear this sort of zen, like flute music coming from next door. And I hear these girls say, hey, once you've... I'm not going to tell you what I heard them say, but long story short, I believe there's a massage going on next door. So in case you wondered why you were feeling so zen and so fantastic, that is why. Now, in the next, as our final network statistic, the next Treasury payout is in about 13 days. So just so you know, whether you are a potential proposer, whether you are a voter, 13 days. All right, now let's move on to social happenings, my favorite part of the show. Firstly, I want to show you this Dash developer named David Fortney sent me an email like 3 weeks ago, and he said, hey, I've decided to write some skills for Alexa. Could I use your voice for them? And I said, what does that mean? And he said, Alexa, the Amazon robot who you tell to do things for you. And it turns out that he did just that. Allow me to show you.
Alexa, ask Dash update for the current stats.
The current price is $94.68 US.
Alexa, what's in the news today?
Here's your flash briefing. From Dash Detailed.
Oh my goodness. So if you own an Amazon Alexa, you can now both ask it the Dash price, and you can ask it to play the latest episode of Dash Detailed for you. So that's fun. Also in social happenings, I would call it famous. I thought it was pretty nifty, but our dear Tao of Satoshi got Roger Ver to come on his show in an episode entitled, I believe it was something like Bitcoin Problems and Dash Solutions with Roger Ver. And among many other things, that video taught us the true story behind Roger's famous tweet about using Dash, and I can play a bit of that for you now.
The person that asked me to pay him in Dash, though, wanted to short Dash with the Dash that I was loaning him.
Okay.
So that probably didn't work out too well for him either. Hopefully I'll get all my Dash back at some point when the return is due.
I laughed so hard when I saw that portion of the video about Roger's friend potentially losing a whole bucket load of money shorting Dash that I think my neighbors heard me through the walls, and it was an excellent day. Put me in a good mood for about a whole 24 hours. And Also in social happenings, another video, yay, I saw this tweet of the Crypto Show host, Chris. Now, if you don't know the association between Dash and the Crypto Show has been sponsored by the Dash Network via a treasury proposal, naturally, for something like the last 5 or 6 months. And one of the elements of their proposal was that they would use a portion of their treasury funds to give to a charity called Unsung, and the Unsung charity gives away meals to people. And recently, I guess, there was the South by Southwest Festival down in Texas, which I believe is a music festival. I'm not cool enough to know for sure. Pretty sure it was a music festival, and this is what was happening there. So that's Chris. And he and Danny are, I think, the most frequent hosts of the show. And there he is, giving away little bags of food that have dash.org stickers on them. Now, what you weren't able to tell from that video, because we couldn't get the sound to play, what you weren't able to tell from that video is that coming from very loud speakers, there's this sort of Bitcoin rap song that I'd not heard before that's playing very loudly, like on that street. I have no idea who set that up, but that reminded me, you might not know that there's a Dash rap song. Oh yes, a Dash rap song.
Dash, digital cash. You can spend it any way you wanna. Dash, digital cash. No risk, so don't worry about the drama.
Yeah. You can find the link to the Dash rap song, as well as, of course, all of today's show links in the description section below. Don't even think about emailing me, for example, saying, Amanda, what was the link to that one thing you talked about in your show the other day? Because guess what? If I talked about it in the show, it's in the description section. You're welcome. Now, finally, current opportunities. Dashforce, the Treasury proposal Dashforce, has begun, or is about to begin, a new contest. And this time, it's for Wall of Coins. So backstory is that the business development team of the Dash core team reached out to Dashforce and said, hey, Wall of Coins requires some more liquidity on the sell side. And so the contest is this. If you are willing to sell $1,000 worth of Dash let me rewind. The process for submitting is you put in a sell order on Wall of Coins, you take a screenshot of it, and then when someone picks it up, you take a screenshot of that, and you submit those 2 screenshots to the Dash, let's see, what's it called? It is called So when you have those 2 screenshots and you want your payout, and then I'm about to tell you the payout amounts, you will go to the channel that's called Dashforce_WoC in the Dash Nation Slack. And again, if you're not in our Slack yet, the invitation to join is also below. So, as to the award amounts, if you're willing to sell $1,000 worth of Dash, you'll get tipped 1 Dash. So it's like more than 10% back, right? That's pretty good. If you're willing to sell $500 worth of Dash, you'll get half a Dash tip. If you're willing to sell $250, you'll get a quarter of a Dash. And then if you're willing to sell any amount over $100 worth of Dash, you will get 0.1 Dash. And the total budget available for this contest, Mastermind tells me, Mastermind is one of the people running it, the total budget is 10 Dash. And then there's just one more element left of current opportunities, and that is that I myself would very much like to make an explainer video of private send. I would say of video requests that I've received, that's the most common. And it's fitting that it be so because if you ask me, private send is also the most misunderstood technical aspect of Dash. And so I've given it a good deal of thought, and I would like to represent how private send works visually. Not just me talking, but also not me on a whiteboard, right? Because I would like the production quality to be higher, basically. So if you or someone you know is an animator, I don't know if I don't know if that's the right word. Do y'all call yourselves animators, cartoonists? I don't know. Whatever you call yourselves. I am looking. I will write the storyboard. I will provide the voiceover. I require simply an animator to make an animated short of the idea that I have in my mind to show how private send works. So if you or someone you know would be interested in that job, the video will be under 2 minutes. As I said, I'll provide the storyboard and the voiceover. If you would kindly send me a quote, that is the amount that you would be willing to make this video for, denominated in US dollars, although of course I'll pay you in Dash, please send an email to amanda@dash.org. All right. Well, everybody, that is all I have for this week. I'd like to give you a little preview and an invite to come back this Friday, same time, 12 noon Eastern Time, for the next in our Spotlight series, which will be an interview with Dash business developer Daniel Diaz. And of course, I hope that you're following me on Twitter. We recently broke 2,000 Twitter followers. Did I just say Twitter followers? That's all right. That's fine. Hooray! And yeah, I look forward to seeing you back here same time next week.